Cindy, I am calling from my home in Boulder, Colorado.
Beautiful Boulder, Colorado, which is growing pretty rapidly, and a lot of people are going to Boulder.
It is, and so it is a secret that has been found out, and alas, I looked down the main street, which used to have some cars, and now it's bumper-to-bumper traffic.
We were just talking about traffic. Well, Jonathon Goldman is an international authority on sound healing, and you're also a pioneer in the field of harmonics. You hum a lot. He's the author of a lot of numerous hum a lot, and you're the author of lots of great books. I love your books, Healing Sounds, The 7 Secrets of Sound Healing, and the latest best-selling, The Humming Effect, which won the 2018 Golden Visionary Award for Health Books. And you're the director of Sound Healers Association and president of Spirit Music in Boulder, Colorado. You're also a Grammy nominee, and you've created 25 best-selling award-winning recordings, including Chakrance, Divine Name. With that, with the great guy, I love Greg Braden. You did that with Greg, and Reiki Chants, and you also are the Mind, Body, Spirit magazine's 100 most spiritually influential living people. That's a lot. That's a lot of sound. And the reason we had you call our travel show today was because, of course, sound travels, and you travel, and you are creating an amazing event. The World Sound Healing Day next Friday, February 14th, is happening. And how did you come up with this concept?
Cindy, excellent question, because it happened close to 20 years ago when I was in deep meditation. This inner voice that sometimes speaks to me said, okay, you've been doing this for about 25 years already, and that was back in 20 years ago. So, golly, not aging myself, but and and you've helped bring awareness of how sound can be used to heal people. Now it's time to bring consciousness to the fact that we can use sound to heal our planet. So I said, oh, wow, that's a great idea. Wow, using sound. How do we do that? And then the transmission stopped. And I had to kind of figure out what would that encompass. And I thought, what if there was one day a year when people throughout our planet would stop for just a little while and send an intentionalized sound to the energy of our planet that was encoded with love and compassion and kindness and gratitude, and I said, okay, what day would we do for that? Well, how about here in the United States, and then some other countries as well, they have Valentine's Day. And I said, hey, let's do it on Valentine's Day, and therefore it chose February 14th, and from there it took a little while to manifest. So the first one, I believe, was in 2002, and thus began the grand worldwide party of sounding to send a sonic valentine to the Gaia matrix, or Mother Earth.
Well, it's very interesting because, I travel a lot. And I was just in Los Angeles for the Grammys, and I have to say, being used to the sounds here in Maui, where we have Haleakala, which has been considered the quietest place on Earth, inside the crater.
Wow.
To go to a place like Maui, from Los Angeles, where you hear the sound difference, right? And I'm very sensitive to sound because I work with music and sounds.
Sure.
And you probably are aware of that too, because you're very, very sensitive to sounds. And I believe that every city and every place has a vibrational tone. Do you think that's possible?
Well, sure. And I mean, it's interesting because I think these vibrational tones are shifting. Just not to change the subject, but my wife and I were walking. It snowed yesterday, and we were walking in this wondrous, as yet undiscovered little portion of Boulder that is called, believe it or not, Walden Ponds.
Oh.
It's not Henry David Thoreau's Walden Pond. It's called Walden Ponds, and it actually is a wildlife sanctuary. And we were the only people so quiet. But it's also been discovered a little bit by there's a small local airport nearby, and it gets buzzed by these people in their little planes, and I feel sometimes like King Kong on top of the Empire State Building, because they're really creating a major, from my perspective, sonic pollution by buzzing the place with the planes.
That's a very, very, very good point. You know, we had this problem years ago on Maui where there were helicopters going over and taking tours over Haleakala, and actually it took a bit, but it got stopped, and that is such a treat to know that you can be there and not have this environmental thing. Now, what's happening, even up here at some of our parks, I'm seeing more and more people using drones. And in places where, you know, they're taking their drones and they have a sound that's intrusive, especially in a park area, right?
Oh, my goodness. Just a real quick, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and the drones are legal around this thing, but I was walking and I remember seeing a great horned owl during the day, which is a pretty rare thing, and I started going, whoo, whoo, because I could communicate with these beings.
Yeah.
And it came closer, and, you know, we talked for a while, and then it flew off, and then about a minute later, this thing, I didn't know what it was at the time. My wife said, oh, you know, my goodness, you know, we thought it was a UFO or something. It was a drone. And how obtrusive is that?
Yeah. Was it Boulder? I forget which city in Colorado where they had those whole herd or flock of drones going off at night, and they thought maybe it was, some people thought it was UFOs and everything, remember? And then there was, did you hear about that? There was a whole...
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Oh, no, there was a big deal, and people were complaining that it was happening nightly, and they couldn't figure out, even the police and them were trying to figure out, because it was a huge amount of drones all going in formation, and I'm sure someone probably thought it was pretty funny, but sound, as you know, is so...
Getting back to sound, yes.
Sound is so important, and we kind of have become immune to sounds because of all this environmental sound pollution that happens, right?
Well, Cindy, I mean, it's really interesting because one of my new approaches to sound, in terms of just trying to let people know about the importance of sound, is saying, okay, if you are basically working with sound and enhancing your ability to create and also to hear sound, then you're literally changing the way you're amplifying one of your senses. And if you are amplifying one of your senses, then you're literally changing the way that you perceive reality.
Very good point.
That's immense.
Let's take it to the vibrational level, you know. I mean, we know, and you work with enough sound that when you do recordings, I mean, I'm looking right now because I'm recording us, and I can see the vibrational frequencies and the levels of what I'm saying. But it's not just that on that screen. It's also an energy. We know that sounds have colors. They've been so many wonderful people for over 100 years working with the frequency of sound colors. And now... there's actually, and it's been going on since I think about Vietnam War, where the government was trying to use sound as a way to actually use it as a weapon. And of course, we know this happened in Cuba, where they were using frequencies and energies of sound to try to use it as a weapon. So there's such a power to sound. It's almost like we need sound police. Jonathan, can you create a sound police?
That's so funny that you're saying that, Cindy, because I thought a while ago when I actually started the Sound Healers Association that we needed to have the sound police because there were, you know, anything that can be used as a healing modality, from my perspective, can probably be used in a, shall we say, less than healing aspect, including sound. But I mean, literally, I can't think of anything. I don't believe that there is, for example, a magic bullet, which is a sound or anything that heals everyone all the time. You know, I like to say in workshops that, if everything in the universe is in a state of vibration, which our physicists and our ancient mystics tell us, okay, then penicillin would be a waveform or vibration or a series of vibrations. And for about 80% of an audience, 80 to even 95%, depending upon who it is, they're going to find penicillin as a healing frequency, but for 5 to 20%, it's going to be toxic and lethal. So, I use that as a metaphor for the fact that there's just nothing that I've ever encountered that works for everyone. And I just think it's very, very important. But getting back to what you were saying before, not only, are sound and color related, but from my perspective, I believe that sound and consciousness is related, and that we can literally encode our consciousness upon the sound. And in fact, in the mid-1980s, I came up with a formula, which is frequency, which means the sound, plus intent, which is the energy that we encode upon the sound, equals healing, if that's the desired outcome. Another one is basically sound plus belief equals desired outcome.
Well, that's true. And you think of of course, this was known by the Tibetans, and I think you've studied and worked with the Tibetan, you said the ones that chant on the couple of octave levels.
No, not me.
Oh, yeah, no, it's and there's a reason for that, right?
Well, yes, indeed, and I think you don't have to, though, be able to do the Tibetan deep voice, which I love and is wonderful. That any sound that you make, can be a healing sound if it's made with the intention of love, okay? But also, that's why our latest book, The Humming Effect, seems to be really, really taking off, and more people and teachers, including in yoga, are incorporating the hum, because it's one of the most powerful, what they would call vibroacoustic, which means it literally vibrates your body, the cells of your body down to your DNA, and it really is an extraordinary healing sound, particularly if it's coupled with the intention of, having a particular effect. I think that's so important.
Well, let's talk about Om, or and there's been a lot of people who think that Om is O-M, but a lot of teachers say, no, it's A-U-M, with the M being held as the world frequency sound. So, so Aum, when you do I can even feel it in my lips.
There you go.
And I know you work with this. So, what do you think about the Om versus the Aum?
Okay, first of all, you are correct. Om, as it is pronounced, is spelled A-U-M. That's correct. There are a couple of different ways of saying Om. Actually, there are a whole number, depending upon what region of India or Nepal or Tibet you're coming from. But also, and here, this is kind of interesting. There's a book called the Yoga Sutras that was written thousands of years ago by a guy named...
Holly. Yeah.
There you go. And my wife and I were at a place called Yogaville that was... It's actually, that's the real name, but it was founded by Swami Satchidananda, who was the fellow who kicked off Woodstock. And I happen to have been there, so I think he somehow pervaded my consciousness. And anyway, we were there a few years ago. We go back, and we walked into where we were staying, and there was a copy of Swami Satchidananda's translation, because every guru has done their own translation of the Yoga Sutras, and I picked it up and I just opened it and I turned to Sutra 1.27, and I can't give you the exact verbatim, but it said something like, the original sound of creation was pranava, the humming of prana, and they had to give this a name, so they called it Om, which I thought was really interesting. So the Om came from the original hum of creation, if you like.
Well, the sound of creation is interesting, and the harmonics and the energy of every place within, you will be able to feel and sense and hear on February 14th. Now, you've been doing this a while, and you are asking people to sound forth the ah tone for 5 minutes at noon at your local time zone around the world on February 14th. Now, you've been doing this for a while. What is the feedback you've gotten when the world, and I don't know if you've tracked how many people are doing it, but when you have a group of people saying ah around the world, what happens?
Well, Cindy, first of all, I would also suggest, that's a wonderful question, that some people ohm, some people and at this point, some people hit bowls, bells, didgeridoos, or play the ukulele, me being one of them. But what happens, we have literally hundreds and hundreds of different events happening throughout the world. And it's wonderful. In different cities, there's some major performances and different groups that do stuff, and it's wonderful. And what happens? Well, there's been shall we say, some scanning of it through various places, like something called the Global Consciousness Project, which is if you like, it was initially out of Princeton, New Jersey, and what they did was they had these random number generators. You got to ask me, what does a random number generator do?
Okay. What does it do?
Okay. Well, I thought it generated random numbers. That's why. It doesn't. It just generates zeros and ones. And it's supposed to, if you like, emulate flipping a coin. If you have basically a coin and you flip it 100 times, you're going to get 50 heads, 50 tails. And that would be, therefore, you get 100 times with the random number generator, you'd either get 50 zeros and 50 ones. But they found that when events of high compassion occur, that for some reason the randomness of these random number generators becomes less random to the degree that normally would create a straight line, right? Equal number of zeros and ones. But here, not so, and they could track it, and it'll basically sort of create some sort of, if you like, graph, and they did it with the World Sound Healing Day a couple of times, and it kind of looks a little mountainous, if you like. So there's something going on. And, yes, I think, wow, this has not healed our planet. And yet sometimes I think, oh, golly, gee, what would have happened if we hadn't done this?
Well, and then there's also the fact that there's a lot of people now that are listening and creating harmonious music, and others that aren't, but there are certainly people who are aware. As you say, if you just think of all the people doing yoga around the world,
right.
And in each area, there's this frequency of energy that's going out that does create, without fail, there are vibrations going out around the world, and you have seen and heard of many healing things that happen with your sound healing. So why not extend it to the world, sound healing? I mean, the environment and our energy imbalances are kind of off with what we have had seen, and we know that's going on with the oceans and what's going on with our planet being out of balance with its frequencies, and what's going on with unfortunately, the pollution that's happening around the world that causes distress and disease, right?
Yeah, well, from my perspective, many, if not all, I won't say, all, but many of the problems that we're facing right now were human-created. And from my perspective, if they were human-created, they can be human-fixed. If we can simply come to a level of cooperation, kindness, and compassion, which means shifting and changing our consciousness. And from my perspective, the greatest way that we can do that is, let me keep going, is with sound that is encoded with the energies of light and love. Now, you probably know about what they call heart-brain coherence, which is a certain way of doing some, if you like, breathing with visualization, and that really seems to amplify the electromagnetic field of ourselves. Some say it makes it 50 times greater, some say 500, some even say 5,000 times greater, but this is great, if you like, synchronization between our heart and our brain, and it really makes our electromagnetic field quite big. And then if you add in the ingredient of sound, well, just think about this. I'd like to suggest that the major reason why so many of the prayers on our planet are either chanted, sung, whispered, or spoken is that sound amplifies the power of prayer, so it amplifies this energetic field, which is why we, on World Sound Healing Day, make that ah sound. Now, you could conceptually make almost any sound that you wanted as long as it's done with the energy of love, but ah seems to be one of the great sounds for the heart center.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of the different god and goddess names on our planet, and even the words like Ma
Rama.
or Pa.
Yep.
You know, or if we like something, we go, ah.
That's right.
So we make that with this breathing, and the concept is that our field and the fields of all these people together, it's a 1 + 1 = 3 phenomena, and all of a sudden we're able to interface with what I call the Gaia matrix, or the energetic field of our planet.
And if you mentioned your heart and your mind, and if you bring your soul into that as well, because every soul has a powerful energy field and frequency as well. And if we all use this for good intent, like you say, to carry that intent as you do this on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day at noon, tone for 5 minutes with that intent, with love and light, you'll feel good. You'll feel the energy. You'll feel good for yourself, and you'll feel good for the world. And I only have a couple minutes left. You know, every time I talk to you, I wish I had more time to talk.
Right.
But, well, there's so much that I know works for what you're doing. But you do have a great website for yourself, and you also have a website for World Sound Healing Day, and that happens to be worldsoundhealingday.org. And, you know, if I know it's a busy day with Valentine's, but a good time to bring your heart back into it with the sound is Valentine's Day at noon. You can do that. Now, to find out about your books and your CDs and your work, where do people go?
HealingSounds.com.
It's a very good place. You have a lot of information on HealingSounds.com.
Thank you. It's a blessing to be able to share, and thank you so much for your co-creation of this event, because this is not Jonathon Goldman's World Sound Healing Day. It is all of us. I don't even have my name anywhere on the World Sound Healing Day website, because it's a co-created effort. We heal the planet, we heal ourselves, and we heal the planet.
And the planet needs it. The people need it. The planet needs it. We all need it. And every bit of that good love and energy and frequency, I know, makes a difference. Having been involved in sounds and music and the field for a long time, even voice and talking makes a difference, and I can feel it in your voice as well. So I really do want to say a very, very, very big mahalo to you for the work you do in sound. People can even get not only your books, you can get I think you even have healing tonal things people can buy on your site.
Yeah, of course we do. But we also even have a free, it's called the 7-Minute Chakra Tune-Up, and it's a free download because, you know, why not?
Yeah, no, why not? And then we'll go into that, and that's another whole thing about each chakra having a sound as well. So, but thank you, Jonathon Goldman. It's a treat talking to you. You know, I really sometime would love to get together and do more with you, because I just love the work you do. And this is really a great opportunity to speak to you. And I also want to thank Joan Van, who's been very good in helping to arrange this. And she's been excellent as far as providing information as well. So thank you, and a big mahalo. And I appreciate you taking the time to call in.
And thank you, and blessings of light and love through sound to you and every listener and everyone.
Thank you, and a big aloha.
Aloha, indeed. Thank you so much. Mahalo to you, too.
Mahalo.
Thank you.